Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, AI technologies have been all the rage since practically November, if we look at it. So it's been only a few months and so much has happened that some are even considering that that's the kind of technology that should be slowing down for a while because we cannot catch up. Theoretically, there are laws even describing it, like Martech's law, organizations not being able to catch up with the technologies that are emerging on the market. So this fascinating topic, the topic of AI-based technology in the food industry, is what we're going to cover next. And here joining us, we have Jaleh Algul, co-founder and CEO at Pubinno. Hello. We have Mathijssen, CEO, co-founder of Algul. And we have Elijah, VP of Sales, EOS Data Analytics, and the panel discussion moderator, Jaleh, Daie. Welcome, and the stage is all set.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the audience attend. It's break time, pre-lunch time, so I know it's kind of marginal timing. But anyway, thank you for coming. You are all my heroes. Everybody in this room, you're doing and working on a noble cause. Food is something we couldn't live without. So you have my deep respect and affection for being in this work. Not only I think it is a noble cause, but I want to quote one of the wisest men in our American history. Thomas Jefferson, in some 240 years ago, when he was American ambassador to France, before he became president, eventually, he wrote to President George Washington and warned him actually, said, that the brewing war between England, Holland, and France may distract America from our wisest pursuit. He considered agriculture, he said, our wisest pursuit, agriculture. So he considered that the wisest pursuit for American as we started as a nation. So the topic of AI, artificial intelligence, sometimes in many circles is considered to be not wise. It's a bunch of data that is analyzed and predict some possibilities and options, and they offer it to us. And it doesn't, at this stage of the game, it doesn't offer much wisdom. Wisdom is something that we have to layer on top of that. So with that in mind, I want to start by asking you, each one of you, to talk a little bit about the landscape that you're seeing right now. What do you see happening? What do you like to see happen? Of course, we are talking about food and agriculture. And as you speak about that, talk about the short term, let's say in the next couple of years, how do you see the future unfold? And then talk a little bit about the longer term, 5 to 10 years. So I'll start with Rim.
All right. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Elijah. I'm VP of Sales at EOS Data Analytics. We are a special company provider, so we use satellite technologies to monitor crops worldwide. We do anything from crop classification to yield prediction, soil mapping, and so forth. And this year, we've launched the first satellite that is dedicated fully for agro, out of 6 to come in this upcoming constellation. Being a company that deals with satellite data, it's challenging. Not a lot of people know that this technology exists in many parts of the world. And of course, considering that we work with not the farmers themselves, because the technology is unfortunately still a bit too advanced for them, or maybe too complicated, I would say that we work with the input suppliers, the seed producers, the governmental institutions, banks, telecom, the list goes on and on. And it's our job as a company, of course, to deliver data that is reliable and at the same time accurate and price cost effective, because this is, when we think about the ag sector from a space perspective, of course, it doesn't like to spend a lot of money. So we always have to think of solutions that are reliable, but it is also affordable by all the players out there, because agro, again, is one of the last industries that is undergoing this digitalization. Even though the effects are massive, because even like yesterday, Bloomberg was talking that we're going to be 10 billion people 20, 30 years from now. That's a lot of people to feed, and we already need to think of ways on how to make agricultural advanced, sustainable. Yeah, right. So we need to educate the players worldwide that we need to use these sustainable practices to limit, the effects of climate change. Because again, we cannot, all the panelists and all the companies that have been in this wonderful event, we talk about climate change. We cannot stop it, but at least we can reduce its effect on the world. And in terms of the future, where do I begin? I think automation is going to play a huge role. I see digitalization, complete digitalization of the market, where everybody really is interconnected. Of course, I think the satellite industry, there's no stopping to it. It's going to grow and continue to grow. Or I would say, however, we do also see a need to integrate with other providers. So we integrate, for example, with drones, weather stations, with some hardware in the ground, sensors, and so forth. But I think automation here is key. And I think everybody, when they think of building some sort of a product, sustainability always comes to mind. So we always need to think of a product that is sustainable, effective, and again, price is really, really critical matter in the ag sector. Thank you.
Glenn?
Yeah, so
how do you see things?
Yes, how do I see things? Very, very good question. So my background is more on the food side of things. So where there is more on the ag side. I'm CEO of Alberts. We work in the food robotics segment, meaning that we make a robot that can serve food to people directly. So how do I see things moving forward? I'm a big believer of the Elon Musk belief side of the world. So I think he's right in saying that it will influence all sides of our lives in a very short time frame, and short time frame means years to come. It will be way faster than we all think. And how I see it going actually refers a bit back to the title of the talk, where it was said, how can food tech somehow help AI? But I think it will be largely in the reverse way, where we have to see how can AI actually start helping the food tech world to thrive. So how I see things, I think it will start with the low-hanging fruits that we can all imagine, I think, by now. We can all imagine ChatGPT-like things to interface with the consumer directly. I think we can by now imagine how that could work. I think we can all imagine, for example, with imagery, how AI can help to detect stuff that we cannot directly see. For example, if you take a look at all the imagery, I'm going to plug in some Belgium companies. I'm from Belgium, so Planticus, for example, they do image recognition in the fields in order to see, are fruits ripe? What is the perfect ripeness of the fruit? When can we start picking it? And even see diseases growing before the human eye could actually detect it. Stuff like that. So I think that is the low-hanging fruit, going in the imagery and in the language models. And then after that, there is a way bigger roadmap ahead, which we can maybe talk a bit more afterwards as well.
John.
First of all,
in your crystal ball.
First of all, thanks for coming to everyone just before the lunch. For me, the answer is clear and simple. We are in the climate crisis time. So we will see so many solutions which use the sources in an effective way. For example, I'm the co-founder of Pubinno. In Pubinno, we are building Internet of Beer. As a small scale-up, only Pubinno saves 700 million liters water. 700 million liters water is equal to the water that used in UK this summer. So using the resources efficient is the one side. The other side, we will see so many customized solutions, especially about the flavors, about the mixations. This is what I think the world is going.
Tell us a little bit more about your AI or that helps you save water, because water obviously is a very critical element. Everybody's concerned about water use. Tell us a little bit more about how you go about doing that. How do you achieve that?
Thanks for this question. As you know, beer is the third most consumed beverage in the world after water and tea. And beer history as equal as the civilization history. The word of pub comes from the public house. And to make a 1 liter beer, you need to consume 155 liter water. And according to American Restaurant Association, average loss per cake is, I'm sure all of you already experienced this, the seepage, overfoaming, overpouring in the draft. Average loss per cake is 23%. And if you remind, for 1 liter beer, you need to consume 155 liter water. It's a huge amount. And we have AI-powered robotics in Pubinno, which arranges the beer flow according to beer type, infrastructure, and the situation in the bar. So that's why that robotics pursue the perfect pint, standardize the quality, and it eliminates the waste, and we save the water, decarbonize the planet.
So I think in order for companies to leverage AI into their operation, it seems to me there are some elements that is gonna be key. First is computing power. Second is access to data, whether you own your own data or access it, buy it from somebody. And the third one is, if you are especially, not so much the startups, but if you are a bigger corporation, the third piece of it is how do you integrate the existing data that you have across all your different business units? So, Glenn, why don't you start talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, so indeed the computing power is a very good point. If you take a look at, if you do a Google search, it costs Google approximately 5 cents to do the search. If you do a ChatGPT search, on average, it's 35 cents. So clearly there is way more computing power needed just to do a search. Of course, average numbers. So this is today a very scarce resource. So scarce that Elon Musk, sorry to quote again, says if you want to do anything relevant in AI as an AI company, so not as a user, but as an AI company you want to start, you need at least 250 million to invest in your own computing power. Otherwise, you're basically a nobody in the space, and you cannot be significant. So then the question is how to collect the data. And I think there, the food and the ag-tech sector, we have one big advantage, and it is, yeah, it's true that software is eating the world, but at least today we're not eating software yet. So maybe one day, I don't know. So today not, meaning that there is a physical interaction in the business we have. So very easy, there are tractors on fields, there are real consumers grabbing things, putting it in their mouth, there are factories or installations like yours, pouring the beer, making the beer, in our case a robot producing a blend, giving it to a consumer. So I think the big advantage, or something that we could add, let's say, to the industry of AI is basically providing boots on the ground, literally on Earth, to source data, collect data, or enrich data.
Yeah.
So a very easy example then from our case, for example, is we have this robot. It can make blends for you. It can make a smoothie, but you can personalize it to what you want. Because the robot still has to make the blend, meaning you can personalize it. So we have a real tap-in line with real consumers live in the field all day, every day, who are creating their smoothies. So we talk then with, for example, multinationals who are trying to onboard their products into our platform. We work today, for example, with Danone and their brand Alpro. And it was literally like a realization on the spot where we said, yeah, we don't have to try to think which recipes will do well. we also don't have to ask the consumer, hey, what would you like? We just have to see what they make and if they buy it again. And if they do that, that taste profile will be in the good direction. And then on top of that AI, on that source data, then you can really start learning what is working well and what is not working well. In theory, even without ever doing a taste panel, because the taste panel is live, the people in the field, basically. So I think that is the advantage that foodtech or agtech has, really the boots on the ground to start sourcing stuff. That's a bit how I see it.
Rim, obviously you guys are in the business of collecting data and analyzing it actually to hand it out to farmers so they can use it to improve their production and hopefully improve their margins. So when you have these large amounts of data, the question of computing powers and all of that, how is that affecting your operations? How are you going to access quickly the computing power that you need? Because obviously the chips that are being made for this kind of things are in the hands of a couple of companies. It's not like widely produced chips. How do you manage this?
Sure. I think we, opposite kind of what Glenn does, we use space to solve challenges on Earth. We use AI in order to understand how much yield we're going to have down the line, how much crop we're going to have. The AI has helped our customers coming from various parts of the world because there are problems worldwide. I mean, you have soil degradation in Africa and Southeast Asia. You have droughts in certain parts across Europe. With AI, we can understand where's the problem, what is going on. However, we want to take it to the next level, and that next level is how we can know why this problem is happening, right? So this is our kind of roadmap in the near future. We want to also show the farmers, the food producers out there, why this problem is happening. Am I going to have the same problem next year? I'm going to have the same problem next quarter, and what should I do about it? So we are also talking about suggestions and recommendations depending on the analytics that we gather from satellites. And this is the gap that we've seen in the market. This is what is missing. Some companies, of course, do claim that they can do this, but it's not there yet in terms of accuracy, in terms of reliability. And we also have to think that farmers still prefer to go with the old approach, as in my grandfather, my dad, my ancestries have been using these methods where I go out there, check what's going on. I don't need some text, some data on a paper or in a computer to tell me that I have a problem. We've never needed it before. Why do I need it now? So I think this is also very important for the ag community, the companies out there, the governmental institutions as well, the ministries and so forth, to educate people that there is this technology. It's viable, it's accurate. Again, we can deliver it. AI is tremendous, I mean, in the space sector. Again, when I approach it from my kind of industry here, that it's not only about gathering analytics, it's about these making these predictions. So if we're going to have, let's say, drought next week in my field, am I going to have then some sort of fungus, right? Because that's the enemy, I suppose, of too much precipitation, too much water. So I think, with the help of AI, we can make those predictive modelings, and that will result in water consumption, reduction of water consumption. I think in our case, because Johnny, we're approaching it from a water kind of also perspective. In our case, we've understood that with the help of AI in ag sector using space data, we can reduce water consumption by 50%. Pest and disease, when it comes to that, we can result to using 90% of less pesticides, and that is massive. The same thing goes for machinery, and using trucks out there to go out there in the field, it can reduce down to 30%. And again, this will help with climate change, right? Because everything really is interconnected when you think about it. So I think the AI here, it's not only about gathering analytics, it's about to also what is going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now. And that's what we are trying to do. I think that's the core focus here.
Yeah. All three of you, your companies, have a hardware component. And we've seen robots for a long time now. If you look at auto industry, they went robotics automation a long time ago at scale. So yet, when you look at ag and food sectors and industry, you don't see a lot of robots yet used. So where are the robots?
It's a fantastic question. Where are the robots?
Where are the robots?
So, I actually did a PhD in robotics, and when I was in the bar, there was a question I often had. Yeah, sure, but where are the robots? And then I said, well, your dishwasher, maybe. You know, it's literally the best example.
Yeah, it is a robot.
It's the best example that we have, or maybe it can mow your lawn like a little robot. But so where is the robot? Where are the robots is a very, very good question, and the answer is slowly and then suddenly. So to give you an idea, so in 1972, I believe, by heart, was the first humanoid that could be considered a humanoid. Leonardo da Vinci also made some drawings, but it never really, of course, worked. So that was 1972, okay? And then in 2000, by heart, I think 2015, DARPA was starting challenges. So a humanoid is human-like robot. Eh? So in 2015, DARPA started challenges to collect the best minds globally and say, come on, let's do a robot competition and let's make this work. All the movies, you can check them, they're the funniest movie because all the robots, they fall down, they break down, it's like a disaster. But then all of a sudden, slowly but suddenly, in 2000, the robots started actually behaving relatively well. Sorry, 2020, and then now, 2021, 2022, Boston Dynamics has robots that can do backflips, that can literally work with drills and stuff like that. So the answer is slowly, but then suddenly. And unfortunately, again, Elon Musk then jumps on the train to say, I'm going to build Optimus, the robot that costs $30,000, that can work for 5 years. So yeah, if you take a salary, 50K maybe, and that's 5 years, 250, 30K, yeah. The HR department will be less crowded then. But so where are the robots? Slowly, but then suddenly, I believe. And it's the same thing in our sector with the food tech.
Are we close to the suddenly?
So
How close are we to the suddenly in food and ag?
So very good question. I think actually certainly ag already has robots, is actually an industry that does have robots. For example, self-driving tractors, self-driving tools in the ag industry, they're really popping up now. There are startups active in there, but they become bigger and bigger and bigger. So the answer there is now. So, I mean, John Deere also has already devices that can operate automatically. So I think in that sector, the answer is now. In our daily kitchen, the answer will be, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, something like that.
I think differently.
What do you think?
As Pubinno was selected one of the greatest robotics company in Bay Area last month, according to San Francisco Business Times. In every interview, I said that, for example, if you look at our business, we are not replacing bartenders. We are just helping them to make them their real art, making cocktails to create time for them. For example, if you look at the bars are the area to socialize, okay? Human always will be the center of there. So robots will be the helper part of the ecosystem. So, but if you look to robots in this mindset, there are so many robots in the manufacturing, in the behind scans, but in our social life, robots is here to help us. So I'm looking in this perspective.
So you're in the same camp that we are getting pretty close to ramping up in use of our robotics and layer it with AI, so speed up progress in food and agriculture.
Exactly. It's already happening so many things. For example, even beer production. There are so many robots make the process 3 times faster. But in the front end, maybe we cannot see so many robots, but in the back end, there are so many robots already exist.
Yeah.
There's one example in the bar industry, let's say. So in your sector, there is one example. It's like a service robot that brings basically drinks or plates. So that takes the role of the waiter, the functionality of bringing you the dish. And they have sold now 50,000 devices. And then again, slowly but suddenly, so first prototypes already 30, 40 years ago, never worked out. Then all of a sudden now, on 3 years' time, 50,000 devices in the field. That's a lot. But still, the headline last month was, are service robots the next thing? And then I actually have 50,000. I mean, these people must think, we have 50,000 of the robots in the field. Is it now still the question if it's coming? But so yeah, slowly and then suddenly.
I had recently had a service robot experience, and I'm going to share it with you. I was at the airport in Chicago, O'Hare, and I went to the United Club while I was waiting for my connection, and I'm sitting there. I hear this beep, beep, beep. This robot is just roaming around collecting dirty dishes, not himself or herself, but as it came past your table, you put it on the shelves on his belly. So I got excited, took pictures, and followed it and all that. And then I was sitting there and I said, oh, can somebody turn this beep off? Because every time it sees an object, it beeps. And in a United Club, there are how many thousands of corners that would create a beep? So it was very annoying, so I have to say that for just the light side of it. So the other thing that all three of you share is that you're startups that are looking for money, I assume, would hope to raise some money sometime soon. Given the market situation right now, and in fact, I want to say something that is a little bit discouraging for startups and people who are seeking funding in this room. I just saw this morning that came into mailbox that said Q1 of 23 compared to last year, or 21 actually. The number of down round funding is 4 times higher. 4 times. That is a huge number. So you have this hope that you would be able to raise money. From your perspective, and given the conditions in the market right now, what do you see your biggest challenge in terms of achieving milestone or whatever you have to do to gain a grounding for getting a good round of funding? What's the biggest challenge for you right now? What keeps you up at night?
I'm happy to say that we kind of exited the startup phase, so we are not there. It's more challenging, though, of course, than when I remember when we started. I think in the digital ag and the AI, the market will continue to grow. Now it stands at what, 1.7 billion? It's going to be almost 4.95 billion 4 years from now. So we know that there is demand for this technology. We started as a software originally. We've used every single source of data that the market has to offer, publicly available data, commercially available data, which is really pricey. And then we realized that there are gaps in terms of the data. Something is missing. And that's what led us to understand that we need to have our own hardware. If you are not familiar with the space industry, usually companies, they launch a satellite and then, okay, what kind of software I need to build, or maybe what kind of company I can buy, right? So companies end up buying, some small startups here and there in order to get that revenue, because more revenue is earned from software, at least in the digital ag sector. But with our hardware, we are, for the first time, of course, looking to raise investment, hoping to close by the end of the year. But even then, we are, yes, raising hardware for the, raising investment, right, for the hardware. The revenue will still come from the software, from the AI analytics, because that's what the world needs, right? It's not really the hardware component. It's a very different kind of things what we do here on this panel. So it's an interesting discussion so far. But from our perspective, I think the challenge here is to understand that, yes, you need to invest kind of in this hardware in order to produce good quality data, at least in our sector, right? Because that's what people need. Really, yeah.
Yeah, so in the hardware world, they say hardware is hard. Doesn't mean software is soft. But what keeps awake is the classic. If you have hardware, you have a capex investment. So at Alberts, we found now a way to scale for us capex low. But what keeps me awake then is that still in the end, that capex will need to be financed. And with current interest rates going up, our device for the client then in the end is literally, if they take it on a lease, 5 years, it literally goes up with 9,000 euros just because of the hiking interest rates. So that starts to pose a challenge, because you're in food. In food, there is an end consumer price, there is a return on investment that needs to be made by the client and the partner. So if that keeps hiking up, that will really become a challenge, and that's already today often a challenge. So for us, we have a capex low strategy now, so that's good. But then still, in the end, the financing needs to be there for the partners. So I think that will be. I'm curious when it will flatten out, or potentially go lower. But today, flattening would already be very nice.
And John?
I think it's not about being software or hardware. It's about creating value and sustainable business models. For example, even in World War II, there was bars, pubs, and draft beers. But in COVID time, there is no draft beer. Even though that, Pubinno had a significant growth, like 5x, even in COVID time, because of our value. What we offer, the most hygienic beer, the most sustainable beer for the planet, and hygienic for the consumers. So if you have an organic business model, organic growth, this recession don't affect you so much, and the real value startups will be alive and will disrupt the industry. That's what I'm looking.
Okay. Well, thank you. I see our host is standing up, which tells me that we are about to finish. We have 10 seconds, I guess. We would not go over time. And I want to thank you for being such good, thoughtful panelists. And thank you for the audience to be here. I'm sorry we don't have time for questions, but you can come up and talk to any one of us anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.